Hello, I'm LilaJaber, and today I have with us Leon County Superintendent of Schools, Hanna. You know, as I was preparing for today, Superintendent Hanna, I looked at your campaign website and I noticed the 5 commitments you made early on to the voters. I've listed them here. I thought maybe before we get to COVID, before we get to teacher salary, if we could just let the voters get to know you, have a refresher course on your commitments. I'm going to work backwards. Create a fiscally strong school system.
You know, when I ran for office 4 years ago, and I appreciate your support then, I didn't have a record. What I did have was a lot of promises and things that I committed to do. And 4 years later, I'm proud to say we've accomplished many of the things that I said I would do 4 years ago. One of those is financial responsibility or fiscal responsibility. One of the first things I did upon taking office was we strengthened our emergency reserve by $2 million or 40%. Now is a time where we actually are going to need that financial stability, that having that reserve, because we know budget cuts are coming or looming in the near future when the legislature probably returns after the election. So I strengthened our emergency reserve. I also inherited about $240 million of capital debt when I took office. And I made the commitment to begin reducing that. And I'm proud to say that by the time of the election, we'll have reduced capital debt by over $60 million. I'm very proud of that. We have big projects going right now at Fairview and Rickards High School on the south side, which for so long have been neglected. In total, that projects will be about $70 million between the two of them. But the best part about it, we didn't have to borrow any new money in order to get it done. I'm very proud of that. I actually have Leon County Schools on a trajectory. If whoever's next, if they'll stay the course, that Leon County Schools could potentially be completely debt-free by 2028.
And as part of fiscal responsibility, I think you probably put teacher salaries in that category. I know that you've been complimentary of the governor making that a priority, but clearly you'd like to see more happen in that regard. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
We could never pay our teachers enough. I mean, there's a reason in 1997 that, as my wife said, I left the classroom as a teacher and turned to the dark side to become a school administrator, and a lot of it was because financial reasons. And the misconception for people, they think teachers have it made. You know, they get the summers off and they get this and that. And they don't have the summers off. They're unemployed. They're only employed 10 months out of the year. Now, we pay them on 12 paychecks, but we save the money for them. Mm-hmm. They aren't compensated for 60 days. So for our teachers and our beginning salary, and we did move the needle from $36,000 to $37,500, and we were able to give teachers some raises over the course of my first 3 years and a bonus last year. We are moving the needle, and I am very appreciative of the governor and the legislature for seeing that and making it important. The $500 million statewide is very appreciated, but it doesn't get us to that 47.5. It just doesn't. It gets us probably closer to 40 to 41, which is a step in the right direction. I just encourage the legislature and the governor to continue that trajectory and that course. But we need to be honest with our teachers, because a lot of them are going to expect when they return in August to have their minimum salary at $47,500, and it's just not going to be a reality.
And that's because of the allocation that Leon County received.
It just wasn't enough money statewide. It wasn't enough money to get everyone there. It was a lofty goal. One thing I do disagree with the governor and the commissioner over is private school vouchers, is us using public tax dollars to support vouchers for kids to go to private school. I'm vehemently opposed to that. But this year the governor increased vouchers by 30,000 students. Times $7,000 a student is over $200 million. I think that $200 million should have gone into the teacher's salary, and we could have gotten even closer to the 47.5. But philosophically, I'm just not aligned to the governor and the commissioner on the issue of reckless charter expansion and private school vouchers. I'm just not, because I think you deplete, it comes at the expense of our traditional public schools, and that is a great concern for me. But teacher salaries are important, but I'll tell you what's also very important, I made this commitment, is our support staff. We always talk about teachers, the teachers in education, teachers, but the people who don't get talked a lot about are our bus drivers, our food service workers, our custodians, our maintenance staff. I'm proud to say over the last 3.5 years, we raised our minimum wage in Leon County from $9.30 to $11.80 for entry-level workers to try to give them more of a living wage. all of these support staff members, the paraprofessionals, bus drivers, and others have received between a 15 and a 20% pay increase in the last 3.5 years. Because there is a lot of talk and conversation about teachers, but some of these bus drivers and food service workers, I don't know how they survive. I just don't. And they do it because of their love for kids and their want to make our community a better place. But we have to be able to compensate them in a way that they can provide for a family. So I'm very proud that we raised the minimum wage. We gave significant increases in pay to our support staff and our teachers as well.
Have you already lost teachers? Did you have to furlough any?
No, not yet. And we're trying our best not to add to the skyrocketing unemployment rate here locally. We're trying our best to do that. However, if school is not back in session, we are going to be forced then to furlough some employees, those bus drivers and others. And that will break my heart, but we'll have to wait and see what happens.
One of the other commitments you made and have acted upon, improving behavior so everyone can learn. What did you do there, Superintendent?
A couple of things. One, we have sworn law enforcement officers that are armed in all of our schools. In addition, we committed 50 security monitors that are unarmed that work alongside with those officers that monitor what's going on our campuses with behaviors and the people that are coming on and off. So if kids are disruptive or maybe are turning towards violence or arguing, that they can intervene in those situations. And then finally, we have mental health counselors now in all of our schools. We have a great partnership with Dis Village, so if the kids that are experiencing emotional or trauma coming from home or whatever, that we can get them the interventions they need along with their families to help go through that crisis. Because there's a reason that children act out, and usually it's because of things that are going on in the home that are really disturbing to them. So I'm proud to say we've added mental health counselors in all of our schools that can help intervene in those situations. We committed classroom behavior specialists to all elementary schools, because in elementary school you have a principal and an assistant principal, and if one of them get pulled away because a child's having a bad moment, then there's less time the principal can be in the classrooms evaluating instruction. So we committed about $1 million for those classroom behavior specialists in all of our elementary schools that can also intervene to get our kids back where they need to be in a good place emotionally to where they can learn.
Is there a way to measure the result there? Have you noticed a difference?
Oh yeah, my elementary principals are telling that program is working really well. In addition, this year, and you'll be the first to hear it, we are going to completely eliminate out-of-school suspensions. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that we send kids home, we put them on the streets. A lot of times parents then have to make a decision, do I go to work or do I stay with my child? And we are going to come up with a creative program to use Lively Technical College as a sounding board to take kids out there that have had problems with behavior, to show them all the opportunities that were available will be afforded to them if they just get their high school diploma and move forward to try to get control of those behaviors. So, but
and to inspire them to have a future.
Exactly. Because a lot of times they act out because they don't see any hope. They don't see what is potentially there for them after high school.
So that'll be implemented
This
in
fall.
the Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm very good.
Yeah.
And you're the first to hear about it.
Thank you. So I know when you made the commitment to protect students, teachers, and staff, no way you would have envisioned something like COVID-19 being part of that. So it's taken on a new meaning for you, I'm sure. Let's just address that. I know that parents and teachers want to know, how are you going to protect them in August when school opens?
Job one for any superintendent or any principal or site administrator is keeping our children and staff members and teachers safe from harm. That's job one, and it always will be job one. On March the 13th at 5 o'clock, we were told we would not be returning to school, and all of our students' belongings were still in their lockers, our teachers' belongings were still in their classrooms and in their offices, and we immediately flipped on a dime and went to a distance learning model where kids were at home and our teachers were at home, and it wasn't easy. But I give full credit to our teachers for adapting and adjusting. Our teachers, like my wife, who's been teaching 25 years, they are built on brick and mortar face-to-face instruction. So this was really challenging for them to go to a distance learning model. We did a lot of things well, but there were a lot of things that we learned. And there's so much uncertainty, especially now where the cases in the state of Florida have spiked tremendously. Even here locally, we're seeing cases spike, and it was recently reported by our teachers. They're scared. They're scared, and And schools are not places built for social distancing. They are crowded hallways and cafeterias. And so this is the question that has kept me up at night for many nights now, and that I've wrestled with. But first and foremost, we have to keep our people safe. Heaven forbid someone got sick or someone died because of this virus, and we put them in a situation that wasn't safe. But there's also that balance between the parents who want their children back in school, who have to go to work. They want their kids back in school, and we need our kids back in school, but we need to ensure that we're going to do it in a safe manner. On Monday, June the 1st, we went right back to work getting ready for the reopening of schools in August. And we took our large school system with 5,000 employees in many departments, and we broke them into subsets. One was health and safety, one was academic services, one early learning, career technical programs, transportation, food service, special student education. And all of the owners, the department owners, then called people from the outside. Like in health and safety, we worked with the Leon County Health Department and the folks at TMH. And academic services worked from people at Florida State and Florida A&M to come to bring Canvas, a learning management system, to our district. And so they did that work for about 3 weeks, and then we convened a task force of lay people from the community to listen to our preliminary plan and then weigh in from the outside to give us maybe a new perspective of reopening and things that we need to consider. There's a lot of talk about PPE, a lot of discussion about masks and the benefit of kids wearing masks. We came up with a plan to reopen, and a big part of that plan was giving parents and families choices. And if families wanted to return, we would welcome them with open arms. But if a family, they just weren't there yet, they just didn't feel comfortable, or maybe they had a grandparent living in the home or someone that was medically fragile, and they wanted to stay at home, that's okay. We would educate them in the home. But it was going to be much different than what we did last spring. A big part of that was we made a $10.5 million commitment to purchase devices for every single one of our students, because this really exposed us the digital divide we have among our schools and among our children. We should have done this years ago. We sent teams to different parts of the country, to Virginia and to other parts of Florida, to look at other districts that have gone one-to-one with a device for every child. We just never executed it for whatever reason. And it's a big monetary commitment. But this showed us that we needed to be there. And so we've made that commitment. Now every child will have their own learning device to take the place of the 80-pound backpack. So all of their courses will be loaded onto that device, and they'll carry it back and forth with them from school and home.
So
And
every child will have the resources so
Yes.
that he or she is not left behind.
Exactly. This is going to be a game changer for us.
Yeah.
So we have given all of our families choices. I'm going to use 30,000 as the number. It's really about 33,000 students. But of 30,000, we have 20,000 that want to return, and we have about 10,000 that would rather stay at home for now. Right?
It's not that the students are together. It's not, the digital academy is not allowing the child to participate in the class remotely. It is a different teacher, different class.
Well, so that's the conversation. Where we are trying to get to is it's blended, where they are a part of the class in real time. Okay, so we're trying to get there. We're testing bandwidth. We're testing some other things, because that would be the most seamless thing we could do. Right? Is that at 8:30, your first period class, you logged on, the other kids were there, we have a camera, the teacher's teaching, the other students in the class are behind, so we don't violate any FERPA laws or FERPA issues, and then the teacher's teaching, giving assignments, and then it's somewhat seamless. All right, that's the goal. But now we also know that we've heard this week from our teachers, and that many of our teachers, and I think it's from the spike we've had here locally and in the state, they're scared. They're not in a good place. And as much as I want to try to say that our classrooms are safe and our hallways are safe and our cafeterias are safe and there's zero chance of you catching the virus, I can't. There are no guarantees. And if our teachers aren't safe, and many of them talk about taking a leave of absence or early retirement, and we can't operate without our teachers,
Right.
because they are on the front lines every day. So
I had an opportunity to witness your webinar last week with the families that signed up, and what I really appreciated was you were in the classroom, you were in the cafeteria, and you were showing the things that you've done. Do you want to?
so we're taking advantage of all of our square footage and spreading things out. We're devising more lunches in our high schools and in our middle schools, so all kids aren't in there at the same time. Using other available spaces in the auditoriums, in the gyms, outdoor seating areas. We're trying to get as creative as we possibly can to social distance as much as we can while also educating our children, which presents quite the challenge. There's a lot of discussion with the task force and masks. And my wife Christy said from the beginning of this, you told the people in the community that you're going to let science and the healthcare people drive the decisions. And you would look like a hypocrite now if you said kids didn't have to wear masks in the classroom, because you would speak against what those folks were saying. And she was right. And unfortunately, our kids are going to need to wear and be required to wear masks in the classrooms. Now we're going to give them mask breaks and spread out and give them time to get out, because there's no way for 7 hours can we expect a 7-year-old or a 17-year-old to do that. So we're going to get creative with mask breaks. Another thing we did was we condensed secondary classes. Instead of going to 6 classes a day, a student will only go to 3 a day, and we'll extend the time. So on Monday they will go to their first period class, their third period class, and their fifth period class for 100 minutes, and then they'll switch every day. So what that does is cuts down on the number of transitions, because with 6 classes you have 5 transitions. With 3 classes you only have 2 transitions. It also cuts down on the amount of contact that a teacher has with students. So a teacher would only have contact with 50% of their students, and the students would only have contact with 50% of their peers on any given day.
Right.
So anything we can do creatively and thinking outside of the box to keep our kids and our folks safe, we're going to do it. But now I'm just growing very concerned about our teachers not being in a good place. And we can't operate if 200 of them or 300 of them of the 2,000 decide to take early retirement or leave. That will really cripple us.
It'll create a teacher shortage for you. What will be the tipping point in terms of, what your decision is in that regard?
Well, the other thing that's here is, this isn't just like the flu. I have the flu, I have a fever, 24 hours later I feel better, I come back to school, or I come back to work. You have it, there's all this contact tracing, you have to quarantine, so you're out for a potentially an extended period of time. If you're in home and your spouse has it, once they recover, then you have to wait 14 days before you can return. I only have about 480 substitute teachers. Most of them are older, retired teachers. I increased their pay from $10 an hour to $14 an hour over the last 3 years, but for $14 an hour, they're just not it's not the risk. So I'm worried even the subs we have are not going to be in a good place. So with all the contact tracing and all the challenges this presents, even this plan that we have with 20,000 in and 10,000 out, it's still a very fragile plan.
Has there been any guidance from the Commissioner of Education?
They issued a emergency order 2 weeks ago that said all schools must reopen brick and mortar 5 days a week in the month of August. And the only exception would be if your local health department, recommendation of local health department, they didn't deem it was safe. And then I met with folks from our local health department yesterday, and they said they don't give recommendations. They just give you the data. They don't give advice or recommendations. So there's obviously a disconnect between the State Department of Health and the State Department of Education.
Right, and yet you have to open August 19th?
We have to open 5 days a week by the end of the month of August. That's what the executive order says. So we maybe could buy time to the 24th. Monday the 24th would be the deadline by when we had to open. Right now we're scheduled to open the Wednesday before on the 19th, but the drums are beating louder. There's school districts in South Florida that have already retreated. Majority of the school districts up in Atlanta have already retreated back because of the spike across the country. We went home on March the 13th and no one was sick in Leon County. There were no deaths, and now people are sick and there are deaths, and we're saying, okay, come back.
And people we all know.
Yeah.
It's coming closer to home.
Even this summer, with just about 10 to 15% of my employees, I've had 3 principals deal with COVID. I've had electricians and painters and building maintenance supervisors dealing with COVID, and we aren't even back yet.
Right.
For the switching gears just a little bit, somewhat related, for the parents and students that have selected Digital Academy, what are you saying to them that they'll get the same quality education in terms of content?
Well, it's going to again be much different than it was last spring. They're each going to have their device. We also are on a common learning management system, Canvas, which is the same thing that Florida State University uses. So it's one cohesive learning management system. We've purchased content for all of our courses that are loaded onto Canvas. So it's going to be completely different. So those of you out there that are thinking it's going to be just like it was in the spring, it is not. It's going to be there's going to be a lot of rigor. There's going to be high expectations and grades associated with your effort and your academic accomplishments. Last time we kind of gave kids a free pass because we knew a lot of them didn't have computers, or they were sharing computers with their parents, or they didn't have internet access. So this time is going to be there's going to be a lot more accountability, but we're going to be positioned in a much better place with the devices, with the learning management system, and with the new content.
One of the best inspirational stories I heard came directly from you at my son's graduation. You shared a story about where you graduated in school. Do you want to talk about that?
I can. So I was not the model student that my brother and sister were in school. I quite honestly, I struggled, and there wasn't the term ADD or ADHD, or if there was, I probably had it, but there wasn't any diagnosis, and the medicine was being put on restrictions at home, or heaven forbid, my father believed in corporal punishment, and so that was kind of the medicine to better straighten up. I graduated from Leon with I think a 2.4 GPA, and I scored 790 on the SAT. I think you got 700 points for just bubbling in your name correctly, and I was just not the great test taker. What I had the ability to, I worked hard, and I just never gave up. And that the word perseverance is probably my favorite word. And I am living proof that you don't have to go to Harvard or Yale or Princeton, but if you stay the course and find something that you believe in and that you love and you're passionate about, and that you never quit on yourself, that dreams can come true. And I'm living proof of that. My mother, if someone would have told my mother that one day her son would become the principal at Leon High School, and heaven forbid the superintendent of Leon County School System, she just said, "You must have the wrong child. Are you sure you mean Rocky? My son Rocky? You mean my son Ty, right? Not Rocky." But I'm also blessed to have a loving family and a loving parents that have helped me along the way. And again, it's been an honor to serve these last 4 years. I think with another term, I can cross the rest of the things off of my to-do list, continue to reduce that debt, continue to push resources into the classroom. I'm very proud that recently our graduation rate was the 5th highest in the state of Florida. We have some amazing school administrators and some wonderful teachers. We do. And the public school system in Leon County has been healthy for many years. It wasn't anything that I did or the person before me or the person before him. It's healthy because we have good school administrators and wonderful teachers. And that's why it's really hard for charters to expand and for privates to expand, because our public school system is so healthy, and that's a credit to our teachers.